I bet if you scroll through your smartphone, you'll find photos just like these. A memorable hike in nature, a pre-party hangout with friends, or just a carefree selfie on a walk. At first glance, they seem completely ordinary. However, behind each one lies a story so dark that it can send chills down your spine. Today, we'll uncover 6 photographs that looked innocent in the moment, until their haunting backstories came to light in ways no camera could ever capture. But first, as always, viewer discretion is advised. It was a bright Saturday afternoon, August 20th, 2022, when 30-year-old Andrea Mazzetto and his girlfriend, Sara Brigante, decided to spend the day hiking in one of northern Italy's most striking landscapes, the Alternato Trail above the Val d'Astico. Perched more than 1,300 meters above sea level, the path winds along jagged limestone ledges that seem to float over the valley below. That afternoon, the couple's phones were out constantly, and one of the last shots Andrea made shows the two of them beaming into the camera with the turquoise sky and dizzying drop at their backs. Eager to share the moment with their followers, the couple began uploading the images on the spot. But right in the middle of that, Andrea's phone suddenly slipped from his hands and landed on a narrow rock ledge just below the edge of the cliff. Without hesitation, he stepped closer to retrieve it. As he bent down to reach for the device, his footing shifted on the loose gravel, and in an instant, he lost his balance. Before Sara could even process what had happened, Andrea had already fallen from the cliff, plunging nearly 90 meters down the rocky slope and disappearing from view. In a surge of panic, she dialed emergency services with shaking hands, screaming for help into the alpine wind. Within minutes, teams of firefighters, mountain rescue specialists, and medics lifted off in a helicopter toward the coordinates she'd given. But by the time rescuers arrived, Andrea Mazzetto had already died from massive blunt force trauma. Hours later, devastated, Sara posted the same final selfie and a heartbreaking message on her now deleted account. "Our last damn photo together. You will always be with me, my little bear." After hearing stories like this, it's hard not to fear the heights themselves. And yet, as the next case shows, sometimes on a hike, it isn't the drop you need to worry about. Sometimes, it's what's already moving silently through the wilderness while you're lining up the perfect shot. On September 21st, 2014, 5 college friends from Rutgers University decided to spend the afternoon hiking through Apshawa Preserve, a quiet stretch of forest in West Milford, New Jersey, known for its scenic trails. Among them was 22-year-old Darsh Patel, a senior studying information technology, described by friends as curious, energetic, and always up for an adventure. The group arrived around midday, parking near the trailhead and heading into the woods with nothing more than their backpacks, water, and phones. Just a few minutes into the hike, they ran into a couple coming down the path, who gave a warning. A black bear had been spotted nearby, not far off the trail. The friends hesitated briefly, joked about it, but ultimately decided to keep going. But a short time later, that same bear found them. It was a large male, weighing around 135 kilograms, and it started to trail the group from a distance. At first, they weren't too alarmed. Darsh even took out his phone to snap a few photos. Yet, at that very moment he raised his camera for another shot, the bear suddenly charged. The group broke instantly, sprinting in all directions, crashing through the trees in total panic. But in the chaos, Darsh stumbled, and the bear reached him within seconds. Meanwhile, the rest of the boys had regrouped further down the trail, and once they realized Darsh wasn't with them, they immediately called 911. Rangers and local police arrived quickly and launched a full search of the area. Roughly 2 hours later, they found Darsh's body, and nearby his phone with the last photo he ever took. The selfie from the next case, on the other hand, looks completely harmless, until you notice what's already lurking in the background. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon on October 15th, 2011, when 3 teenage girls, 15-year-old Kelsey Webster, her 13-year-old sister Savannah Webster, and their 15-year-old friend Essa Rickler, went exploring through Spanish Fork Canyon in Utah. They were hanging out, laughing, and taking photos. At some point, they wandered onto a set of railroad tracks near Covered Bridge Canyon, just off Highway US 6. And when a train appeared on the horizon, The girls waved at the westbound locomotive as it passed. It looked like the perfect moment, so they posed for a quick selfie right there on the tracks. In the image, the three of them smiled toward the camera, carefree and excited. Savannah even posted it to Facebook with the caption, "Standing right by a train. This is awesome." Yet what none of them realized was that another train was coming from the opposite direction. And if you look closely, the headlights of the eastbound Union Pacific freight train are already visible in the upright corner of their photo. Just seconds after the picture was taken, the 10,000-ton locomotive thundered into the canyon, moving at nearly 65 kilometers per hour. Kelsey and Essa were killed instantly, both suffering massive blunt force trauma. Savannah, though still breathing, sustained devastating head trauma and internal injuries. She was airlifted to Primary Children's Medical Center in Salt Lake City and placed on life support. But despite multiple surgeries, her condition continued to decline, and, unfortunately, 3 days later, she was pronounced dead. Meanwhile, in the next case, what appeared in the photo actually helped investigators piece together one of the most chilling Idaho cases in recent memory. On November 13, 2022, 20-year-old University of Idaho student Xana Kernodle was spending the night with her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, at her off-campus house on 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. The couple had returned just hours earlier from a night out, and Ethan had already fallen asleep in her bed, as had the other 4 roommates in their own rooms. At around 4 a.m., Xana received a notification on her phone. Her DoorDash order had arrived, so she quietly got out of bed and made her way downstairs to grab the food from the front door. Moments later, she returned to the second-floor kitchen and set the takeout bag on the counter, with her name Xana clearly visible on the receipt in the now notorious photo. But just as she was about to eat, she suddenly noticed that the sliding glass door to the back patio was open. Assuming one of her roommates had forgotten to close it, Xana brushed it off and sat down with her meal, until something upstairs caught her attention. The unmistakable sound of a struggle coming from the 3rd floor, where her roommate Kaylee Concalves and Madison Mogan were sleeping. Concerned, Xana got up and began walking toward the stairs. But before she could even reach the landing, she suddenly came face to face with a masked figure. Tall, dressed in black, silently descending from the upper floor. Startled, she screamed, "There's someone here," and bolted down the stairs toward her room for safety. But unfortunately, the intruder was already right behind her. That night, 4 students were brutally murdered. Kaylee and Madison, both 21, were killed first in their 3rd-floor bedroom as they slept. On the 2nd floor, 20-year-old Ethan was stabbed to death in Xana's bed, likely without ever waking up. And Xana, who fought back with everything she had, tragically became a victim as well, suffering more than 50 defensive wounds. The killer was later identified as 28-year-old Brian Kohberger, a criminology PhD student from nearby Washington State University. He was arrested weeks later at his father's house in Pennsylvania, after DNA evidence linked him to the K-bar knife sheath he left at the scene. And 3 years later, in July 2025, Kohberger was officially convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the most devastating detail of this tragic case is that Xana and Ethan's death may have been preventable, if not for the late-night food delivery. Investigators believe Kohberger's intended target was likely Xana's roommate, Kaylee Goncalves, whom he had allegedly stalked online and possibly in person for months. Meanwhile, the others, including Xana, seem to have simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time, forced face-to-face with this monster. Sometimes photographs are not just pieces of an investigation, but part of something almost mystical that, even to this day, raises more questions than answers. It was the morning of March 20th, 2004, when a group of 3 young skiers was driving through the quiet backroads of Montgomery, Vermont. As they passed an old abandoned farmhouse, something strange caught their eye. There, an odd angle against the side of the weathered Dutch-burned barn, was a pale green car, with its rear bumper protruding through the wooden wall, as if it had been backed in at high speed. The group found the whole scene unsettling, so one of them took out a camera and snapped a photo. At that moment, no one knew they had just stumbled upon what would soon become one of Vermont's most enduring and disturbing cases. Because 3 days later, the owner of that car, 17-year-old Brianna Matlin, was officially reported missing. Earlier that week, Brianna had been staying with a friend and working a dishwashing job at the Black Lantern Inn, and on that night of March 19th, the day before that photo was taken, Brianna finished her shift around 11:20 p.m., told her coworkers she was heading home, and left alone in her 1985 Oldsmobile. She was supposed to be returning to her friend's house, but unfortunately, never arrived. Later, when police searched the car at the barn, they found Brianna's paychecks, driver's license, and contact lenses still inside. Scattered on the ground nearby were other belongings: loose change, a water bottle, an unsmoked cigarette, and a broken necklace, as if ripped from her neck during a struggle. In the weeks that followed, state police, FBI agents, and volunteers combed the area with dogs and helicopters, but no trace of Brianna was ever found. Some believed she had gone to meet someone that night and that the encounter went terribly wrong. Others suspected she may have been followed. Over the years, theories have even linked her disappearance to serial killers like Israel Keyes, but no solid evidence has ever backed that up. And even today, more than 20 years later, no confirmed trace of Brianna Matlin has ever been found. Only that haunting photograph of her abandoned car, still chilling after all this time. The final case, like Brianna's, also remains unsolved, but the photo tied to it captures a far more unsettling detail hidden in the background. On the evening of February 26, 2015, 18-year-old high school senior Dalen Pua had a serious argument with his grandmother. He told her about his plan for the next morning to hike the infamous Stairway to Heaven, officially known as the Haiku Stairs, on the island of Oahu. His grandmother begged him not to go. The trail had been officially closed for decades, damaged by storms and landslides, and was considered one of the most dangerous hikes in Hawaii. Nearly 4,000 narrow steel steps clung to the mountain ridge, with sheer drops of up to 850 meters on either side. But Dalen was determined, excited, and defiant. He posted on Facebook that night, "Stairway to Heaven, hiking this insane hike tomorrow. Wish me luck." The next morning, on February 27th, he boarded a bus from Waianae to Moanalua Valley, where he began his climb up the back route, a treacherous alternative trail leading to the stairs. At first, he sent his grandmother photos and updates, showing the steep ridges and breathtaking views as he climbed higher. He seemed cheerful, proud of his progress, but shortly after 11 a.m., the messages stopped. And when he didn't return home that evening, his grandmother, already fearing the worst, reported him missing. The search for Dalen began immediately. The Honolulu Fire Department, police helicopters, and even the U.S. Navy scoured the ridges and valleys for days. Meanwhile, volunteers rappelled down cliffs, combed through brush, and studied aerial photos. However, nothing was ever found. Desperate for answers, Dalen's grieving family later shared the last photos he had sent publicly, hoping someone might recognize a clue, and in one image in particular, shocked everyone. Behind Dalen on the trail, partly hidden in the dense vegetation, appeared a shadowy figure, crouched low, watching. While his grandmother insisted Dalen had told her he encountered no one else on the trail that day, the photo clearly suggested otherwise. Yet when police asked for the unknown figure to come forward, no one ever did. The so-called Shadow Man was never identified or found. And neither was Dalen, despite one of the most extensive searches in Hawaii's history. More than 10 years have now passed, and he is still officially missing, with only that chilling image left behind. While most of us associate photos with joy, milestones, and memories we want to hold on to forever, the stories we explored today reveal a darker side of certain images, pictures that later become evidence in chilling investigations, or haunting reminders of tragedies no one could have predicted. Now let me ask you, have you ever looked back at a photo you once took, only to realize just how much danger you were actually in? without even realizing it at the time? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more shocking real-life stories that uncover the chilling secrets hidden behind even the most ordinary selfie.